Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Carrie Simpson, and I'm the host of Hallway Conference. And with me today is Jennifer Bleam, who has started a brand new conference. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what it's like to begin an event in the channel. And Jennifer, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are right now, and then let's get into the gossip.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Love the opportunity. And I am a big believer in transparency. So I love pulling back the curtain and talking about what it's like behind the scenes. So I run a small consultancy called MSP Sales Revolution, and I help MSPs unlock their sales genius. And so I am very much about sales and marketing and growth. And what I was hearing from my clients and then some of my prospective clients is that the shows that they were being invited to, the events were very much kind of the same old content that still works to get your business to maybe flirting with $1 million in revenue, but those things that worked to get you here aren't the same things that are going to work to help you scale. And so I started thinking, okay, first of all, does the channel really need another show? Because I haven't added it up, but we've got to have close to 100 shows, if not more. There is no shortage of shows, that's for sure. But I wasn't finding any that were specifically around growth for the top 10, 15% of our industry. And so I decided, yes, we actually do need another show, but not a same old show, but something that's quite different.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the event. I know it's being held May 10th and 11th in Orlando, Florida. And I thought the venue choice was really interesting. It's beautiful. I've only seen pictures of the outside, obviously, but it's a nice change from the inside of a hotel ballroom. So tell us about how you came to choose that venue.
Yeah, so it was definitely done strategically. So what we're creating is a very different event. We are capping it at 125 people. This is not a massive, where there's 1,000 people in the room and you can't talk to the vendors and you can hardly talk to each other. You can't talk to the speakers. That's not what we're creating. This is a very small, intimate event. And so we did want to get away from the same old hotel room, and so we're having it at the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts. It's lovely. The room that we are in is surrounded by glass. It's just a beautiful room and very conducive to the experience that we're creating, which is going to be a very intimate time to dig into your business, find out if your vision for your business has changed or if it's the same as it's always been, but then more importantly, making sure that you're on track to actually achieve that vision. And if not, what are some things we can do to get back on track? So it's a little more, it's less strategic and a little more visioning and dreaming. It's a little more of that, the emotional side of running a business that too often gets buried in the day to day of running the business.
Ooh, I think we can both relate to that as small business owners working in the same space. I know that there are days where I have all the time in the world, and then there's days like today where we're like, okay, we've got 5 minutes in between every commitment we have today, and running around with our hair on fire just trying to solve problems. So,
I call those days the days that are like Swiss cheese, where someone's like, I need you for 10 minutes. And I'm like, good luck. Like, go on my calendar, find a hole, because that's all there are, little holes here and there.
I'm fortunate that I'm less busy like that these days, but there are still like podcasting, for example, is an interesting, like, it's not a priority the same way as a client meeting would be, for example. So there have been guests that I've had to reschedule 4 or 5 times, either due to my own lack of ability to make it on time or to somebody else's previous commitments, and clients come first, right? So we're always like,
100%.
well, this is a marketing initiative and it has to wait until my current clients have received the things that they're paying for. So sometimes that'll take priority. Tell me how you manage to prioritize creating an event around managing your current client base and all the commitments that you had before this dropped on your plate.
There is something to be said about setting a really big goal that you maybe even in your head you're like, this is insane, I can't do it. Yes, you can. I mean, like, I think too often, like, I have a bratty 5-year-old that lives rent free in my brain, and she's really good at going, Jennifer, who do you think you are? The whole imposter syndrome thing that I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of business owners wrestle with. And so it's take that giant bite and then chew like heck, like just chew and chew and chew. And so like we have our end goal in mind, and hey, it's going to be May 10th and 11th, so guess what, I have 125 MSPs and TSPs showing up, and I have 11 sponsors that are showing up, and I'm not going to let them down. So we reverse engineer from that May 10th and 11th date.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about setting that goal. It's so ironic because it's the same advice that I give to my clients is, okay, if you want to have a webinar, the first thing to do is pick a date and get 2 clients in the room, because you will never let your clients down. And so that's what I did. I picked a date, and then I found some sponsors that believed in the vision and have a relationship with, and they're very excited, 100% behind it. Well, I'm not going to let them down. I'm not going to let my team down, and I'm not going to let the channel down. So we've got to push. You find the room for what's a priority in your life and in your business.
I saw a meme this week that said, before you self diagnose with imposter syndrome, make sure you're not just surrounded by assholes.
Ah, nice. Or the bratty 5-year-olds that live in your head.
I think
I
we
don't know.
all
Maybe,
get to experience that, right? Like
yes.
starting a business is challenging and exciting, and I have a sign here. I don't know if it's going to fall apart when it's backwards, but it says day one levels of optimism. Right? Like the day
Nice.
that you start your business is probably the most optimistic and hopeful you've ever been. And then, 9 months in, you're like, why don't I just get a job? And then at least once a quarter, I'm like, F this. Why don't I just get a job? And then I remember I'm unemployable, and I
Same.
go back to running my business. And now that I've got that like quarterly temper tantrum down from like 3 days of like feeling sorry for myself down to like 1 hour of like, okay, we're gonna go back to work now. Like you've had
I
your fun.
love it.
And the more I try and talk to my daughters about that too, right? About this like kind of overwhelming, like, oh my God, how am I going to do all the things I need to do? Well, I'm just going to do them one by
Yes.
one. I got a list. I got a list of things to get through today. And, I don't know
And
that it ever gets easier.
and by all means, if you need to have the pity party, right? I'm talking to myself here. If you need to have the pity party, have the pity party, have the temper tantrum, scream in the mirror, cry if you need to cry, and then clean your face off and get
Yeah.
back to work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that is it's just that is part of life. And it's that there is that mental game of running a business that I just don't think is talked about very much. We're actually going to touch on that at my event. Is that the mental game is sometimes harder than the hiring and the management and the finding the team. It's running a business can feel like you're in isolation, and so that's
Mm-hmm.
that's part of what we're creating at this event, is that you're not by yourself. The problems you've solved, you can help solve for someone else, and the problems you haven't yet solved, someone in this room has solved. And so it really is a almost like a crazy dysfunctional family of sorts.
That's one thing I've really liked about the channel in the 10 years that I've been here. Most successful MSP business owners are willing to share the things that they did to get to that level, because you may be able to steal an idea from someone, but you can't steal execution.
Yes.
Right. So I can give you, like, I give people our entire calling playbook, right down to the scripts that we use and the processes that we follow. If they use them, they'll be successful. But most of the time, what I have found is that you can give people all the tools in the world. If they're not going to follow along with them, they're just not going to succeed, right? So execution becomes the key differentiator, not the idea you had, but how good were you at following your process, sticking to your plan, and actually completing the tasks as outlined.
It's so interesting. I remember this was probably 8 or 9 years ago. I started following a celebrity online, and she was all into decluttering your house and cleaning your house. And so she had a whole line of tools. She had her mop and her feather duster. I mean, when I go all in, I go all in. So I, dropped like $500 and got this huge box. I think it's the biggest box I've ever gotten in my life. And I was so excited. I distinctly remember unpacking it all and like shaking the brand new feather duster and looking at how wonderful the mop was. And it took me about 5 minutes to realize, oh, now I actually have to clean my house. Like there was no magic pixie dust inside this massive box. And you're right. Like you can have
Mm-hmm.
all of the tools in the world, but if you don't actually use them, you don't get the results that you want. And that's actually a big part of what we're doing, is creating a workbook or a playbook, if you will, that goes along with all of the sessions. Like, now that you've learned this, now what do you do? Because I'm a big believer that knowledge is not power. We do not have a shortage of knowledge right now. You could Google almost any business problem and probably find a YouTube channel with thousands of videos. The problem isn't knowledge. The problem is applying that knowledge to your business and your situation, your team, your goals at the right time. And
Mm-hmm.
so that I agree with you. You know, I could give away every script and every process that I have, and that's not going to allow someone to clone my business because they don't have me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you're executing and your competitors aren't, you're going to be more successful than them. And
Correct.
it's just, there's been no shortcut for that in my experience, right? Like, I can hire people and hope that they're going to execute on things, but I still have to be accountable for those people. I still have to make sure they have the tools that they need and they have processes to follow. And for me, that's been the biggest holdback growing my business. And I'm like, I'm not afraid to share that publicly, to say, like, if I look in the mirror, I know what the problem is. Right. Like, it always comes down to the owner being accountable for the things they're having their team execute on. So if I'm assigning projects to people and just like wiping my hands of it and saying, yeah, like, deal with this, and it doesn't get done properly, it's not their fault, it's my fault.
Yes.
That was an important lesson. I wish I'd learned that year 2 and not year 7. But,
And I think it has surprised my team, because I will always say, okay, something failed, that's on me. Like, let's
mhm.
fix the documentation, let's fix the communication. I mean, but ultimately everything rolls uphill to the owner or the managing director. That's just the way that it is. When we all decided to start our business, that is the responsibility we willingly took on, whether we realized it at the time or not.
I'm going to be my own boss. No, now I have 30 bosses. Great.
All
Thanks.
right.
That's, someone should have told me
Best
that
thing
too.
ever.
So let's talk a little bit about how you're planning for your events. So you had to choose a venue, that's done. How did you choose how to structure it?
So it's interesting. I went to my Facebook group. So I've got Facebook group of about 1,000 TSPs and cybersecurity providers, and I just surveyed them and simply said, "Okay, guys," and I didn't say I'm planning an event. I just said, "Hey, I'm curious if you were going to attend a 2-day event inside of our industry that's designed to grow your business, and let's assume you wanted to attend, what days would you want it to be?" And you know, 2 weekends or a Friday, Saturday. Oh, and I also said, and there's things in the area for you and the family to do, because my
Mm-hmm.
event's in Orlando. And so I'm like, would you want to bring your family? Would you not? And so overwhelmingly, people said Tuesday, Wednesday. And I get that. They're probably thinking, oh, I bring my family on Saturday, Sunday. Monday, they fly home. Monday, I get everything set so that I can disconnect and attend the event. And then the event's Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm home Thursday. I don't miss a whole week of work. I can still, you know, push things forward that week, but the family got to come, and we got to write it off as a business expense. So literally, that was the first thing that we found out. And then the second thing, that one didn't surprise me quite as much. The second one did surprise me. The vast majority of people don't want breakout sessions. They don't want tracks. And I was very surprised, because I love to kind of bounce from the ops to the sales to the marketing. I don't typically bounce to the technical. They would probably kick me out. But I wear a lot of hats. Most of the people that I work with are still wearing a lot of hats, but they don't like to bounce. And so what they were saying is, invariably there's 2 sessions I want to attend. And so I'm like, okay, it's the 11 o'clock session. Do I go to the marketing session, or do I go to the operations session, or do I go to the session about new technology? And so I mean, I think it was like 85%, 89% were like, please just do one center stage and don't make me pick. There's probably a little bit of decision fatigue in there as well. You know, I'm going to pick my seat and I'm going to get comfortable in my seat. That's my spot for the next 2 days, and I can respect that. But that's why we decided not to have breakout sessions. I mean, transparently, it makes it a whole lot easier to plan. It is
Mm-hmm.
a single track. Everybody's in the room. We don't have to think about timing and flow of traffic and all of that. But literally, everybody is in the main session in the main room all day long. The only reason you need to leave is for food, restroom breaks, obviously emergency phone calls. And so that made our planning so much easier because it was what everybody wanted. Please don't make me pick from the breakout sessions.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking about my own event attendance. One of the things that I really haven't done is attend events about my industry versus in my industry trying to sell things to other people. I haven't gone to a lot of call center trade shows, for example. So I, from an audience perspective, like I love seeing what MSPs are doing and I love hearing the keynote speakers, but most of the time it's not technology that I'm going to apply in my own business. So I don't go to the tech tracks. I like to see what they're suggesting from the main stage for sales and marketing tactics.
Sure.
But I haven't really like breakout sessions. When I hear breakout session, what I hear is 30-minute sales pitch from a vendor versus practical advice that I can apply to my business right now.
Right.
So I think that you're onto something there. Just like, let's sit in the room, let's talk to our peers in between sessions if we can. And I think actually that trying to think of like the events that I've been to. I haven't been to anything in the last couple of years,
Of
but previous
course.
to that, like who was doing a good job of creating educational content and kind of sticking to the no sales pitches from the front of the stage rule? Like who did a great job at that?
The only one, and I'm not saying it's the only one that is out there, but the only one that comes to mind right now is the Build It event. So the IT by Design crew has really done a great job, and I don't even know how many years they've been doing the event, but not only is it super educational, but
I have
yes,
it right here.
I have mine as well. I was gonna say, let me go grab it, but it's super educational.
Hmm.
It's not a pitch fest, which is such a welcome change. And then the theory is, and I'm only saying it's a theory because I haven't done an exhaustive search to prove the theory. The theory is it's unique content that this vendor has never presented before. So it's fascinating because you've got vendors that perhaps sell let's say employee awareness, but they're up there talking about how to build and nurture a list. So it has nothing to do with their offering. They're simply giving thought leadership. And
Hmm.
then of course the worksheets and the supplemental
I
information that
love
usually
that.
sell up.
I've
It's
been telling people
fantastic.
that on the on hallway conference since they had the event this year. It was like, and obviously it's still sitting on our desks, so we're still looking
Yes.
at it. We're still referring to it. Um, I couldn't tell you one person that sponsored Build It though. So that's interesting because the worksheets are all here, but if I like recall the content, I can't remember who delivered what because all
Yes.
tracks were kind of focused on, I don't know, MSP how-tos versus like their own products. So there is kind of a one blends into the other. How do they differentiate from the stage?
So then how does the sponsor monetize that event, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's why the sponsor is dropping dollars to attend, is to monetize it, to create the leads and the conversations, etc. It's got to happen in on the trade show floor. It's got to
Mm-hmm.
happen outside of those breakout sessions, because the breakout sessions, like I said, there's a it's done strategically, but it's a complete disconnect between what they're talking about and what they'd love to sell you. They really broke the mold when they did that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. We're doing pieces of that as well. We actually have I'm affectionately calling them TED Talks, where we have several sponsors that are doing TED Talks, and I have to approve their deck because it's not a pitch. Yes, they
Mm-hmm.
get their 3-minute pitch some other time during the event, but this is a 20-minute, let me pour value into the audience. This isn't about XYZ company. This is about helping the community. And I'm just a big believer that the more you pour out, it really does come back around. And I don't think you can outgive this community. This community can sniff out the people who genuinely care about elevating the channel and elevating the companies around them, and the ones that are just at a show to get the leads.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the latter are bad companies. It's just that they're wired differently. And that's, they've probably built very successful businesses, but it's the ones that truly believe in relationships and building up the channel. Those are the ones that I want to do business with, not the ones that are looking to simply increase their partner count or their revenue count. They're
Well,
not
when you've got
mutually
a small,
exclusive.
intimate group like that, right, the list becomes less of a factor because there's only a maximum number of leads that you could acquire at the event anyway, right? It's not like going to IT
Yes.
Nation where you're not going to get the list, but you're also, you have the opportunity to come into contact with thousands of people who may or may not give you a business card. So, um,
Yes.
I like both, right? I like the big events where I can like randomly bump into someone I've never seen before or find a new vendor that I've never talked to. And then I like the smaller, more intimate ones where, it's this group of 20 people that, I've known for a long time. And it's interesting to see what's happening to them year over year, right? Like when you
Yes.
go to a smaller peer group event, for example, like going to an HTG peer groups event or to a Taylor Business Group event, where you can see the same people year over year and like I have people, or people, I have people. I have clients that I had like the first clients I ever signed, I'm still seeing at HTG peer groups 10 years later. And it's been amazing to see like who's exited and who's been acquired and who's merged and what are they doing now. And that to me is fascinating. Like just watching the progress of the same small group of people. You don't get that at the larger events.
No, you don't. And like you said, they each have a place. I mean, I'm not knocking any of the bigger events at all. It's just like running your own IT business is have a vision for what you want. And if you want a multi-state conglomerate, go after it. If you want a $500,000 a year lifestyle business, then go after it. But know what you want and create that vision for yourself. I don't have any desire today. Now that could change, but I have no desire to put on an event with 1,000 people. If I did it, it wouldn't be Jennifer doing it. It would be a project manager, or it's not. But that's not the vision that I have. My vision is to make a significant impact in a small number of companies, not a small impact in a significant number of companies. Again,
There's
that's
a place
my
for
model.
both.
Yes, there is absolutely a place for both. Totally agree.
So if I understand the market that you're trying to attract for this event, it is MSPs who have kind of figured out the initial beginning stuff, right? They're not still wrestling with what RMM do I choose and what am I going to do for this particular, like what am I doing for backup?
Yeah.
They've already figured out their tech stack, for example, and now they're figuring out sales strategy, marketing strategy, all the stuff that you didn't learn at college when you studied your tech degree, and all the business ownery things, right? The things that like you and I are sales experts. That's what we've been good at our whole lives, and then all of a sudden I get accounting dropped in my lap, and
Yes.
like what the and then finding that like when we switched to like ACH, for example, like that revolutionized my business. I didn't have to chase people for receivables anymore. And I learned
Amazing.
that from my MSP clients. They're like, Carrie, why aren't you using QuickBooks Online? I'm like, well, my accountant doesn't want to use QuickBooks Online. I'm like, well, you might not even need as much bookkeeping time as you're paying for right now if you switch to it. And I'm getting great ideas from people all around me on the different tools that you can use to automate processes. You're using some really cool tools to automate processes there. So just full disclosure, we're doing a little bit of work with Jennifer to invite people to this event this month. And when you said you'd already automated the landing page process, I was like, what? That'd take me like 3 weeks. What did you do? So
we we are very much a skeleton team. Like I don't have a team of 50. I mean, we execute on a lot, so we have to be super efficient and very process oriented. And that's been a little bit of a learning curve for a little bit for me, although I'm very detail oriented. I like my processes, but my team is like almost every conversation they're like, and I suppose you want a process for that. I'm like, yes we do. And I have, I mean, this is not a surprise to anybody listening, but I have a hit by the bus mentality, which is so morbid. But I'm like, if you get hit by a bus or your
we say
family
win the
needs,
lottery. If you
okay,
won the lottery,
there you go. I also say, like, if your family needs you to drop what you're doing and go away for 2 or 3 weeks, we have to be able to keep the ball rolling. We have to be able to pick up the pieces and not do it as well as you, but do it enough so that it's as transparent as possible to the outside world. So, yes, that means systems and processes and checklists because otherwise we can't move fast, and I don't move slow. That's just not the way I'm wired.
I like that. I like that about you. So we
Yeah,
talked about how you
we
chose
go
the
through.
venue.
Yeah, we both move really
Venue.
fast. Go ahead.
I know how you're inviting people to the event, obviously. Food. Tell me about the food. How do you choose what you're going to serve, when you're going to serve it, how you serve it, where those, like, I assume that, like, at a larger event, you have to put the food where the shittier booths are so that people get a little bit of traffic flow out there. When you've got a small
Yes.
event like this, how do you feed people?
Yeah, so we have not picked all of the food yet, but we have picked the food locations. And you're right, that traffic flow is so important because it's so interesting. You're balancing two audiences, right? You want the experience for the guests to be amazing, but let's face it, the funds that are fueling this event, it's not the tickets. That's not what is keeping the events afloat. It's the sponsorship. So you have to keep the sponsors happy too. So it's a delicate balance, but because we've got a really clear vision of what we're trying to create, we're going a little bit, especially with our mixer, we are going a little bit more upscale, a little more experiential. We have one of our keynotes is actually joining us at that mixer the first evening, and he's doing essentially an open mic, ask me anything. And I'm a big believer that anytime you can sit at the feet of someone who's made multi gazillion dollars in his career and made a lot of mistakes, but he's willing to talk about it and teach you, that's an experience that is worth more than the price of admission. And so as we're looking at the mixer and we're looking at all of the food, again, we're creating something for the top 10-20% in our industry, and so we're keeping that in mind. And so just like, for example, at the mixer, we are having non-alcoholic options because Carrie, you don't drink.
Nope.
I very rarely drink. And just to put that in context, like when I drink, it's maybe 2 times a year and it's almost always at a channel event. Like, but so when we go up to a bar and we say, hey, I'd like something non-alcoholic, usually what you get is a spritzer or Sprite. And then you're like, could you please add a little bit of cranberry juice so it doesn't look like I'm drinking a kiddie drink? Like it's just like it always makes me feel like I'm a second class citizen simply because I'm not drinking alcohol, which is silly. Like I don't care if people drink, but I choose not to. And so why am I lesser? And so we're actually working with our hotel to create some really fun, creative, non-alcoholic options because there are people that choose not to drink for social reasons or religious reasons or personal reasons, and we want to respect that. We don't want anything that we do to make someone feel less than. And so that level of detail is what we're trying to put into everything that we're doing.
Yeah, I can't even count the bottles of water that I've had at trade shows over the last 10 years. There aren't, usually they don't even stock it with, like, you might get a soda sometimes, but usually it's beer,
Movie.
wine, and
Yes.
bottles of water.
Yeah,
So,
and it's like, oh, here's ice, and out in the hallway is a water fountain. It's like, wow, thanks, I guess. My nickname used to be Water because at so many channel
yeah.
events, that's what I was drinking, and people would be like, hey, how you doing, Water? Okay, I mean, it wasn't really insulting, and it's not a very fun nickname.
I don't even know the number of times I've had to have that conversation like oh, you're not drinking? Oh, come on, you can have a drink. You never drink? Huh, yeah, no, it's been 17 years. I haven't had a drink in 17 years. Like, oh, well, but you could have one today. Like, no, no, I can't, but thank you, right? Like, I spend a lot of my time explaining to people that I don't drink at every social function that I've been to in the
Yeah.
channel, even to people who've known me for years. Because half the time, last time we met, they had been drinking and they forget. Like,
Yes.
no, no, I don't drink. We talked about this at DattoCon last year. Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Why
Yes.
don't you drink again? I'm like, well, because I don't feel like going to jail tonight. Thank you.
Right.
Like, they just kind of like cut it off, move on with the conversation. But there's I think that we have a responsibility as people who are hosting events to make sure that people aren't overindulging. And that isn't really, there isn't a lot of accountability around that at the larger
Right.
events, right? Like there have been, there's been alcohol poisoning at events. There's people who behave kind of ridiculously after too much drinking
There's been
events.
police called for violent incidents at events. And it's so, as you were saying that, it's interesting because most event coordinators will say, do you have any food allergies? Are you gluten free? Are you vegetarian? but there's no allowance for, oh, would you like something other than water at a mixer? And
Hmm.
for people like you and I, like we like attending the mixer, we like chatting with people and having a great time and reconnecting with old friends, and meeting new colleagues in the industry. But then when there's that undercurrent of, am I going to find something that is not water? Is it, it's just it's the little detail, and sometimes those little things do matter.
How about healthy food options? That's something that I really would love to see more about. I don't want to eat a plate of cheese every night for 3 nights, please. I mean, I do.
Yes.
I do want to eat a
Right.
plate of cheese every night.
Which is the problem, right?
But
I'd
between
be
like,
happy to eat it. It's just the next day I'd be hating myself. And some of that comes down to what the hotels and the event spaces offer. Like
mhm.
sometimes you just look through and you're like, do we really like need yet another sandwich? Like there's just not a wide variety of food options. So I'm feeling that as I'm flipping through the menu, going, oh, that's why I haven't picked the food yet, because none of it sings to me. And my team is like, is it really that big of a deal? And I'm like, well, at some point I have to pick it. Like I will pick something, but none of it. The mixer has me excited, but the day-to-day food, it's going to keep us sustained. But I'm not sure I'm thrilled about it. Now, maybe there's some creative things we can do, and we're working on that. But
I just don't
there's a
want
limit.
everything deep fried, right? Like there are like
Oh,
so many events that I go to. And like, okay, well, there's corn dogs and there's pizza and there's, I don't even know what that is.
yeah,
And then there's,
chicken fingers.
yeah.
Like, how old
And
are we?
well, it's not, it's just like I can't. I must have gained 15 pounds my first year on the road, um, and then I still have like the, God damn it! How is breakfast $40 at the
Yes.
at the Hyatt in Orlando? Like, come
And
on.
so we were very strategic about that as well. So our host hotel includes breakfast for everyone. So we are having coffee on site, but the host hotel has breakfast included, because we've all experienced that. We get the invoice, the ticket at the end of the meal, and we're like, holy cow, how did, like, all I had was French toast and orange juice and a coffee, and you add a tip and it's $40, and you're like, oh, just put that on my room. It just feels different somehow to put it on the room as opposed to pay for it right then. But
Yeah.
yeah, all of those things definitely have been felt probably by everyone who's attended events before.
Well, and when it's someone else's money, it's very different, right? But when you own the business and it's all coming out of your pocket, not just yours, but everybody else that you brought to the event, then it becomes kind of a like, huh, there must be a better way to do this. Like
Yes.
I'm eating apples in my room. At the beginning, when we started our business, like I can remember Tracy and I sharing a hotel room. We were filling up flasks with like cheap scotch and putting stickers on boxes and doing all these things to keep our costs down.
Yeah.
I remember the first event where I was like, you know what, we can book our own rooms now. We don't need to share a room anymore. Like
Nice.
that was like two hotel rooms. Ooh, Rockefeller. It was very
Yes.
exciting. But then you get the large vendors that are bringing 20 people into the event, and I'm thinking like, what is their bar tab alone? It's
And I mean,
astronomical.
we talked about like lessons learned, right? In my head, because the event is not a massive event, in my head, I figured every sponsor would send 2 employees. Because if I was staffing it and I knew there was 125 people on site and it's 2 days, to me, that's 2 staff members. So that's what I budgeted all my projections and everything on, was 11 sponsors times 2, an extra 22 people. Well, almost every sponsor is bringing 4 people.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that I'm like, oh, and I don't want to say, did you look at the expected attendance? Because they did, they know. And
Hmm.
everybody has kind of their own way of doing business and working shows. But that was, just one of those unexpected details. And our lessons learned sheet is long, extremely
That's a
long.
good idea, though. Like the first time event lessons learned. That's going to make a hell of a blog post at the end of this.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And
We'll
I
come
mean,
back and do this again after the
exactly,
event.
yeah, after, because I'm sure there are things I'm not anticipating that will happen. Surprise. And we'll have to tap dance and pivot and it'll be okay. But definitely not something for the faint of heart. It's definitely it's a heavy lift, probably a little heavier than I expected, but the vision is solid, the attendance is good. It's gonna be a great event.
Um, do people have to set up their own booths, or does like do people ship to the event venue, or will they just bring a pull-up banner?
Yeah, so they are gonna there are going to be booths. That was something we did not anticipate. See, you didn't know this, but you just stepped into something.
Oh,
Neither the event site nor the hotel have room to store booths. And I did have a moment where we were talking about our bratty child. I did have this moment where I said in my head, I thankfully had a filter on, thinking to the hotel, you're a hotel. Your whole business model is to sell space. Like, that is what you do at your core. How can you tell me you don't have space for the sponsors to send their booths ahead of time? But I didn't. I clarified, and indeed they don't have any storage space. And so we had to scramble. We were like, should we get a hotel room for an extra week or two? We had to think outside the box. Thankfully, we have an MSP who said, I have a client who just acquired a warehouse, and let me see if he's willing to let you ship things to his warehouse. And so he is. My team is then getting there early, picking up all of the sponsor things and taking them to the event site, because the event site is willing to hold on to them for a day. And then all of the sponsors will come in, get their boxes, and then go set up. So never in a million years was on my list of things to ask, do you have storage space?
oh,
Of
I
course
wouldn't have
they have
thought about that
storage space.
either.
I know. I was like, what do you mean you don't have space? You're a hotel. I don't understand. So, yeah, lots of details for sure.
Lots of moving parts.
Yes,
What was
indeed.
something else you didn't expect? So you didn't expect that they wouldn't be able to ship a booth. What are the other like big like? Well, I never even thought that that would be a thing that we'd have to deal with.
The just the sheer number of details and moving parts, and oh wait, you create a social media package for me as a speaker, but now my title has changed, could you create a new package? Or oh, my headshot has changed, could you update that? Like, all of the graphic design elements. And of course the answer is yes, but it just makes things just a little more complicated. Like, oh, we just finished your whole, social media kit and social media presence, and you changed your job title. I mean,
Ah,
congratulations on your promotion, but of course we're going to put your new title there because that's important and we want it to be accurate. But some of those little details, which again, it doesn't, we wouldn't have changed anything, it's just that we didn't anticipate it. So there are a lot of those, like, okay, we never in a million years could have anticipated that. Can we fix it? Nope. Can we control it? Nope. Do we need a better process? Probably not. So, just all of those, it's a lot of different moving pieces.
yeah, I never really thought about like the work. I mean, you think about a large event like DattoCon or IT Nation or any of the other large events in our space, and the first time sponsors where we're spending, $15,000, and to us it's the biggest spend we've ever made, and to them it's like, get out of here, kid, you bother me, right? And I'm like,
Yes.
but I have questions and I have this and I have that, and it's like you're such small potatoes to them at that level. They've got these enormous logistical nightmares to solve, and it's like, just bring your stupid pull-up banner and set it up in the corner, like.
And it's interesting because since this event is smaller and more intimate, we have had a couple of sponsors who are like, hey, we've never done this before. Not necessarily the sponsor, but sometimes it's the person. Like, the company has done it before, but the person has never done it. And they're like, can we just get on a call? Because we don't know what we're walking into. We don't know how to collect business cards. We don't know how this is even going to look. And of course the answer is yes, because I'm a big believer that I want this event to be wildly successful for 100% of the people in the room. Now, we will probably not hit the 100%. There will be someone who gets grumpy about something, just
A
like I've
hundred
been
percent is
grumpy about drinking.
impossible.
100% is
The minute I
impossible.
walk into that
No,
place, you're at
yes,
99 for sure.
yes, but it's a good goal to have. And so we have met with several of the sponsors who are like, we don't really know what's a good swag, what's a good, why are people going to want to
Oh,
give us a
that's a great
business card?
question.
And
All right, let's. We
yeah,
usually say that we've got like 10 more minutes. So, what's the best swag? What should people be giving away this year? Like, what would
I
you keep?
I really like the practical. So I like the practical and like the fun. So the practical side, I like the journals and like the please, like the nicer journals, not
Hmm.
the little wire bound memo pads. I don't like, I want it to be nice, right? So nice journals. And then I like things that are they're a little pricier, but like the little magnetic toys that you can put at your desk and just mess with, and they make like different shapes and
Hmm.
stuff. Those are fun. Um, the favorite giveaway that I did at a show were the little fidget spinners. And people were like, "Hey, can I have another one?" And I still have people messaging me almost every month going, "Hey, where'd you get that fidget spinner from? I really liked it." And I'm like, so it's so hard to tell what is going to be the best giveaway ever. I also learned that it's very different stateside as opposed to overseas. Overseas, they don't like the plasticky throwaway stuff because it creates garbage, which it does. It fills up the landfills. And so they either don't do tchotchkes and trade show giveaways, or they go a little bit higher scale, higher level, and get things that are very practical. They don't want them just thrown away when they get home and throw them away from the suitcase. They want it to actually be something that's going to be used. So I just threw away something that I had for a couple of years only because it was a pen on one side, it was a highlighter on the other, and it had little post-it flags that you could pull out from the side of the pen. And so it was like a multi-tool almost. And I had it until it started leaking, but I think I had it for 2 or 3 years, and I think it may have been from IT by design. So just to
Huh.
kind of come full circle, but I like the practical things.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of anything that I can give to my kids. So if you got like
Yeah,
little cute little stuffed animals with like the little logo T-shirt on, or I like those things that I know what you're talking about, the little build magnet things. I like the bouncy light up balls. I like trying to think
I
of
like
like
the super soft t-shirts. They've got to be the super soft ones. I end up giving those to my kids, but I do my
yeah.
son, my youngest son now, who's 6'1", walks around and he is almost always sporting a brand or a slogan from our industry because he likes those really soft
I
t-shirts
think
too.
Dado does T-shirts better than anyone else. Right. Like if
Yes,
like
and
when you go to check in for Dado, and they got the wall of T-shirts, and you can pick
you get to
the
pick which
saying
one
like
you
the
want.
Keep Austin
Yes,
Weird T-shirt, and they
yes.
are like they're that you can get a women's T-shirt, and you can get like a T-shirt that's bigger if you need a bigger T-shirt. Like I think they do a great job of that. And the donut wall, I really like it. I like a good
Yes.
donut wall at an event.
It's hard to argue with the donut wall.
Although I imagine now with COVID, we can't have donut walls anymore. COVID's taking away all the nice things because you'd
All the
have to
fun stuff.
pre-package them now, right? Like you wouldn't just have them stuck on a wall and let people get their
Yes.
grubby hands on
I don't know if
things.
people could breathe on them, right?
Oh, I don't. I'm like still team mask up everywhere I go, and like we just had our first COVID incident. As if I know this is our second COVID incident because my sister got COVID over the Christmas holiday, and half of our family couldn't come because they were all together when they got tested. So since they'd all been in contact with each other, once one person came back with a positive test, nobody
Oh
could
yeah,
fly.
right.
So that happened for us this year for spring break. My oldest daughter was came down with COVID, and it just like kind of threw a big fireball wrench into everything. What is the plan for like? Do you have to create a COVID action plan? Is there? I guess you're in Florida, so they don't really. There is no COVID in Florida,
Right.
but
Yeah, COVID doesn't exist in Florida, right? And that is actually why we picked Florida, but it's also why we didn't pick a hotel in Florida because even though Florida was very open, quite a few of the hotels were shut down because they're part of a chain that forced everybody to shut
mm-hmm.
down. So that's why we picked Florida, and that's why we picked the Performing Arts Center because they did not shut down during COVID. They needed the business. I mean, they may not have had plays and musicals and dance productions, but they stayed open as much as they could. So our COVID plan is literally to follow whatever common sense says, whatever that county and in this case Florida says as far as requirements. We do understand that we are probably going to have people who can't come at the last minute because they get
Mm-hmm.
tested positive or they come in contact with someone. I've had quite a few people say I'd love to come, but I'm taking care of someone that's immune compromised, or I'm not comfortable traveling yet. And we understand that. We do not have a plan to push this virtual. It's just it again when we go back to balancing what the sponsors need as well as what the guests need. very, very few people have given a spectacular experience to both the guests and the sponsors. And so we do not have a COVID plan. We have fingers crossed that we can have it. And if not, we will reschedule it for later in the year. We are not going to go virtual. It's just not going to deliver any kind of a good experience.
I can't even imagine what it must be like to try and plan an event like something like a wedding, let alone an IT conference at this point. So kudos to you for just plowing forward and making sure it happens. The
What do you do? You
guest
take a bite?
experience is hard to manage, though, right? Like, how do you? I feel uncomfortable wearing a mask when I'm the only person wearing a mask in most of the
Yes.
places that I'm going right now. But I think from like Ian and I are traveling kind of state to state in our van now. So even if you're fine, right? Like I'm in different environments constantly. So I'm
Right.
still very conscious of like, am I providing, you know, like, am I being a good corporate citizen? Am I being a good community member if I am like waltzing into places where I've just been to three other places without a mask on? How do you make sure that people feel welcome and, you know, not ostracized if they show up and they don't want to take off their mask?
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of it comes down to respect, right? Like, let's say I feel 100% fine taking off my mask, but you don't. I don't expect you to look down on me, and I'm not going to look down on you. So it's that mutual respect. I feel like
I think
part of
Build
the
It used the wristbands. Were they the ones that
yes,
had the
they did
like, I'm
the
comfortable with shaking hands, fist bumps
yes.
only, like, stay the
Yes.
hell away from me?
Right, exactly. And I think that's another advantage of having that smaller group is like, guys, listen, there's 125 of us in the room, plus the sponsors. There's probably going to be 20, 25 people in the room that need to wear masks or want to wear masks. That's their choice. Don't make them feel bad. Respect that. We need to look at how the room layout turns out. We may have kind of a if you're COVID sensitive or you do have people around you or you've been in a situation where you feel like maybe you haven't been exposed, but you're like, I'm going to wear a mask to keep the people around me safe. Perhaps we slide them to one side. We just need to see how everything shakes out as far as the layout of the room, etc. But a lot of it just comes down to respect. Like just respect the people around you. That we're all adults, and let people do what they feel right. And if that's wearing a mask, then wear a mask. And if you don't want to wear a mask, fine, but please don't go breathe on someone who is wearing a mask. Like, let's just all be, yeah, let's all just be adults, right? I mean,
Well, good luck with that. It sounds like the more intimate event, it'll be easier to manage just like little set aside conversations, for example, like, hey, how do I handle this situation? Or, hey, what should we do if this happens? Like, it's not like you have to update thousands of people on any changes to the event. So
correct.
that's a plus.
Yes.
Sounds like you got everything handled.
I think so. I mean, listen, there's always surprises, right? Like in every event, and that's what's so fun about going to so many events. I've got the ability to just kind of watch what's happening, and there's always things that don't go perfectly. There's always glitches and bumps and people that are grumpy because you have the wrong kind of water or whatever. Like whatever, people are going to be people. We will over deliver, and someone will still be grumpy, and I can't control them. We can control our team's ability to over deliver. We can't make sure it's accepted and that it's heard and it's received well. We can't affect that. We can just affect what we deliver. So it's turning out well. I'm thrilled. I mean, the number of speakers and the caliber of speakers that we have is tremendous. So
Yeah, tell us
um,
who's keynoting.
so keynotes, we have Scott Augenbaum, who is a retired FBI investigator. He was one of the first people to ever do any kind of investigative work on the cybersecurity side. So these stories that he has are amazing. And then the second one I'll mention, because we have quite a few, but the second one I will mention is David Meltzer. If you don't know him, you probably know the story Jerry Maguire. And rumor has it that David is Jerry Maguire. Now, he will never confirm that. I think he's probably under non disclosure, but his timeline and his story line up awfully closely with Jerry Maguire. And so the whole concept is, rags to riches, building a digital sports agency and recruiting people. And so he owns a ski mountain. Like, I've never known anyone before that owns a
Mountain.
mountain, like an entire mountain. I didn't even know that was a thing. I mean, I guess you can draw a circle around any piece of land and buy it, and that's his. And he's the thing that stands out about me beyond his success in business is that he's a giver. So I mentioned he's going to be at the mixer that night. He just, like, you ask him any question, you ask to meet someone in his Rolodex, the answer is yes. Like, he is literally just willing to help whoever he can. That's who he is at his core, and it's really fun to see. So
How do you
big
choose the
relationship
keynote?
magnet.
That's like there's a question I haven't had the opportunity to talk to somebody who planned their own event. So how did you choose your keynote?
So again, I wanted someone who was not, oh, I've seen him or her at 73 other channel events. And so that eliminated some great speakers that have changed lives inside of our industry. But I didn't want to just recycle yet another talk that people have heard over and over and over again. Again, nothing against Mike Michalowicz, but he's been at multiple channel events and he's a great speaker and his content is great. And I could have brought him, but I'm not building an event like other people have built. So I wanted someone unique, and everything that we're doing is about playing outside of the box. You know, that whole what got you here isn't going to get you there. And so I really wanted someone that hasn't been in our channel before but has had a wild success in business to say, what are the fundamentals? Not what are the tactics that I need to try to build my business, but what are the fundamentals? What are the the lanes that I need to stay in order to stay true to myself and my vision for my company. And David Meltzer has been in my world for a bit, and he had the time open on his calendar, and so he is coming, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to host him.
But how do you find them? Like, how do you get, does he have an agent? Do you have to get in contact? Like, do you call him directly and just say, hey, come speak at my event? Like, how do you create that?
Yeah, so in this case, I actually knew him. He was at an event that I was at, and he shared his phone number with everybody at the event. So it just goes back to what I was saying. So I was able to call him, like, "Hey, I saw you at this event." He's like, "Yeah, I remember you." And so he was able to come. He had it open on his calendar. But yes, normally you go through a speaker bureau or find, most of the speakers have listings on speaker sites, and then you contact them through that. Think of think of kind of like Fiverr, except significantly
Mm-hmm.
more mature than that. And so you can sort and filter and compare the different speakers and how many stars they have. Like, it's a whole industry. The speaker
Hmm.
industry is its own thing.
Well, it sounds like you made a great choice, and looks like people can look forward to learning a lot. And it looks like, from what I'm hearing anyway, they'll be able to apply the things that they're learning pretty quickly as opposed to it just being kind of an intellectual practice.
Yes, 100%. That's what I am all about. I mean, knowledge is this seductive beast where we take in the knowledge and we feel like we're accomplishing something, but you can get very quickly into knowledge just for the sake of knowledge, and it doesn't actually change your business. And I don't think that's what either one of us are about with the people that we rub shoulders with.
I think the goal is to execute. If we can take away anything from today's podcast, it's that you create a plan, you create a goal, then you create the steps you need to get there, whether it is a business plan to get you to the next $1 million or the plan that you're going to take to get 150 people into a room to listen to David Meltzer speak.
Yep,
So I really
exactly.
appreciate you joining us today, and we're gonna like put a date on the calendar so that we can do the all right, how did it go? And what would we have done
Yes,
differently? And what was the best part of the event? And hey, most importantly, are we gonna do it again next year?
right. That is to be determined right now.